You are now tuned into the sounds of
Big Nate Sports Talk.
It's on all the time, anytime.
Sitting looking back on all the times we shared, when I acted like I just didn't really care, and it wasn't fair. You stood by me, girl, when I was so untrue. But this is my promise, girl, I give to only you. Let me be the one you come running to. When you need me, I'll be there, just to let you know that I do care. Baby, I promise, girl, I promise, I'll always be true. And baby, I promise, girl, I promise you that I'll be right here for you. No matter the problem, babe, I'll stand by your side. Be right by your side. We share can never be denied. I know the love in me wasn't always easy.
You are now tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the next big thing, the latest up-and-coming sports journalist, your host, Nathan Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy, for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan Snell of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is episode 1, season 17. Before we get into it, there's a few things I want to get up front. In this episode, we're talking about the Baltimore Ravens. But before we get into that, there's a few things I want to say up front. The last time you guys saw me was about 3 weeks ago, almost about a month ago. After an extensive coverage of the WNBA playoffs, shout out to Brendan Potts for being alongside that coverage. It was best to take a little break. Within that time, some things happened that I really missed out on. We've missed out an extended part of the NFL season. College basketball just started. We've missed out really on a good chunk of Maryland football, but I have been watching the games. I've just been, just dealing with work, school, and different things like that. I'm doing fine, doing well. Just needed a little break. It's good to be back. And I feel like, especially with college basketball just getting started, I definitely feel like this is a good opportunity to really make some things work. So as season 17 progressed, there's going to be some things coming down the pipe. Got to talk with the Washington Commanders. As we get ready for this weekend, the Ravens just had I think was a bounce back win after losing Sunday. We're going to talk about the loss Sunday and the win this past Thursday, and then episode 2. I want to talk about the Maryland women's basketball team. We fell to 1-2 on the season, lost to UConn Thursday night. The men, we're going to episodes 3 and 4, Maryland's men's basketball. Episode 3, Maryland football. We prepare for Michigan. So you're going to get that. You're going to get these 3 videos recorded tonight. Episodes 4 and 5, the Commanders and Maryland's football. You'll also get that as well. And that should hold you down pretty much for the rest of the week. Maryland women's basketball, they play Syracuse this upcoming Sunday. For my extensive coverage of the Maryland women's basketball team, I'll get a little bit into that in the next episode. But that's what's been happening down in my world, man. It was a crazy month. But just like I said, after WNBA playoffs, it was just need a little break. So it's glad to be back. Thank you. Welcome back. I appreciate that. So let's just get right into it, man. The Baltimore Ravens, it has been, for the most part, It has been a very interesting season. I'd say this is probably their best season so far. I mean, really, they've been consistent. Even though I just think in my opinion, the injuries for a third consecutive season has plagued this team, and losing J.K. Dobbins, losing Nick Moore, and a couple other people, it stings a little bit. But within this so far this season, I've seen a lot of growth in the Ravens. However, I've seen a lot of inconsistencies, excuse me. And some of that I think starts with coaching. I'm not a fan of we stick to something, we go too conservative. And this brings me to my point. I'll get into Thursday's night, but I'm just giving you starting here with some context. We had this game won. There was no excuse. You had a 14-point lead going into the fourth quarter. And yes, let me just get it out the way because I know people are going to sit here and be on my, you know what, Lamar Jackson did not have a great game. I will concede that point. But however, this defense that everybody respectfully bragged about comparing it to the 2000 team, I didn't see that. They allowed 34 points. That's disappointing. I mean, 33 points. That's disappointing. And let's talk about it. For the most part, when I look at the game, the pass catching, we went away from the run at one point, but then only 7 players had a completed pass. Zay Flowers, I think, had caught more than 3 passes in that game, where the offense as a cohesive unit held the football 9 less minutes and had 25 less offensive plays. That's coaching. That's lack of adjustments. The pick six. Let's because this is how, again, when you're the national media versus local media and others, I can tell you're not watching the games. The first pick, okay, Lamar is dropping back to pass. Now, the first one, that's a miscommunication. On that route, Rashard Bateman is supposed to run a comeback route or a curl route. Instead, Rashard is practically running a streak and throws it right in coverage. That was just a bad pass. I'll give you that one. The second one, he's throwing it in the flat. Who's a target? It's Patrick Ricard. You literally have a defender. His hands. I mean, what else is he supposed to do? Like, context matters. Like I said, saying, well, he threw 2 awful picks and not understanding well the situations he was in. And then, like, when you look at it respectfully, like Baltimore, we lost in the trenches. It doesn't matter if we were on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Cleveland Sunday, for the most part, ruffled our feathers. I mean, even before the injuries, even losing Ronnie and then losing Marlon in that game. I mean, the offensive line, maybe outside of Tyler Linderbaum and Kevin Zeitler, was disappointing. I mean, they did not have Morgan Moses, but we did fine. I mean, we had over nearly 300 yards rushing and almost 500 yards as a total offense. That's arguably one of the best defenses right now in the league. When you look at the game, I mean, Lamar was sacked 3 times. I mean, they just didn't make him comfortable in the pocket. I just feel like, again, they took advantage of the injuries. I feel like that was probably one of the most. That was just disappointing. And Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns offensively, I mean, they weren't that really much better either. I mean, Cleveland had 3 offensive linemen out due to injury, and you had Deshaun Watson play through an injury, who's now out for the rest of the season. Okay, they got 4 sacks, 8 quarterback hits, but painfully gave up 178 yards rushing and 373 yards in passing total yards. And I understood the game plan. The game plan was to keep him in the pocket. That's fine. But we did a poor job of that. And I think this was a very uncharacteristic loss on the offensive side and the defensive side of the ball. I mean, tackling an open field, that can happen. I mean, on the defensive side, there are clips I could show you where you see defenders failing to wrap guys up, and I mean, and complete the tackle, and or Bailey, guy just shoo right by him. And if anything, they were more focused on trying to strip the ball, and I watched. There was a couple times where there's a pile, and we're getting pounded, and respectfully, and Marcus Williams, who's been practically playing with one arm so far this season, he wasn't that much. He wasn't effective in that game. I mean, he missed the last 3 games these last 3 games before the Cleveland game with a hamstring injury. They had multiple blown coverages, especially in the 2 high safety zone that we play, and especially where the middle of the field was virtually undefended. So, I mean, and again, that's coaching. That's a lack of adjustment because Cleveland feasted in the middle of the field, especially on the crucial third down conversions where they needed it. They didn't play their zones. I mean, the split safeties coverages were decent, but other than that, I mean, just in the first half, second half, Deshaun was 14 of 14, 134 yards and a touchdown, compared to the first half where he was 6 of 20 and 79 yards. And I mean, they did okay, especially on the first half. The first time they kept Amari Cooper in check. I mean, Amari Cooper in this game, he went off. He was caught 6 of his 9 targets, almost 100 yards. I think he had about 98, if I remember correctly. But Geno Stone, who I think has been having a fantastic season so far, he's been the last 4 games up until Cleveland. He had an interception that didn't happen. He made some plays, but there was just a lot of zone coverage mistakes, miscommunications, and that is primarily on Marcus Williams, is him not being there. You could clearly tell there was rust. And then looking at the game, it's just missed opportunities. I mean, Baltimore made big plays. I mean, every part of the game, where it was first half, second half, doesn't matter. They made the plays. I mean, the second quarter, I thought we went cold because we scored 17 points in the first. But again, just mistakes on offense and then special teams on that drive. There was a lot of momentum we gave them. It's like we gave them we gave Cleveland that win. And then you just see, especially the one play, I believe it's on their first possession after punting the ball. It's they're moving well on the second possession of the game, and they were on the third, if I remember correctly, because Zay Flowers had back-to-back catches, and it was a 3rd and 7. In Cleveland, they were at Cleveland's 41, I want to say, and it's a great pass. Lamar just put too much zoom on it because he got behind the safety on a slot, deep route out the slot. And again, that was a defensive holding call on that possession. And then unfortunately, that drive was ended by a sack. And then Justin Tucker had a 55-yard attempt field goal that got blocked. And, instead of it was 24-6, it was 26. And they made a 1-possession game going into halftime. And at that point, it was 17-6, if I remember correctly. And just there was a lot of things that happened. It was just a lot of missed opportunities. And again, like I said, it goes back to just miscommunications and I think Cleveland wanted this game more. And especially where they gave Deshaun Watson too much time. Instead of getting to Deshaun Watson, you're playing against, again, their offensive line is had 3/5 of his backups. They should have just put heat on them. They didn't do that. I mean, they had a 4-minute game-winning drive, essentially, where they had 6 straight run plays, and that was the game. My only biggest issue was with Keaton Mitchell. I thought Keaton Mitchell was coming off a great week before, and it doesn't make sense that he does not touch the ball in the second half. He only had the ball, I think, touched the ball 3 times, I want to say. And some of that, again, is coaching, because Gus Edwards, he was limited to 24 yards on 11 carries, which was, I believe, 2.2 yards per carry. That was disgusting. That's not going to win football games. I don't know what it was. It could have been an injury. I don't know what it was. I know coming into the game, he was questionable with a hamstring injury, but Harbaugh just said it wasn't injury related. And again, when I say coaching, like, let me explain what I mean by that. Because Mike Tomlin, if I remember correctly, made a comment in saying, well, Baltimore doesn't play all 4 quarters. And it rings true. Realistically, this team is not built to play 4 quarters. They're good for about 3 quarters and a half, and that's it. And that's on Harbaugh, respectfully. I'm getting really to the point where this conservatism, where it's just, it's a tough loss, we'll get it next time. No, you gotta hold guys accountable. And I felt as though that this was a game that they could have won, and they didn't. And while it was disappointing, I really thought that it just showed it was just missed opportunities, inconsistencies, lack of adjustments, and it gives them confidence. For me, I still think Baltimore is still going to be on top of the division, but that was a win that I think gave Cleveland confidence. And then as I think I think it'll get better as time. Lamar Jackson's deep passing game, that'll get better. Special teams, we really got to have a conversation with that, because John Harbaugh, for those who don't know, when he was hired, John Harbaugh was a special teams coordinator when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. Hint, hint, hint. The head coach of that team at that time was one and only Andy Reid. So John Harbaugh knows a thing or two about special teams. I'm very disappointed in how our special teams has looked so far. I mean, they've had an extra point, a field goal, really that blocked so far in the season, and then had a punt blocked where Pittsburgh beat us 17-10. And again, Duvernay, for example, there was a fumble that I believe it may have been, by Duvernay fumbled. No, I'm sorry. It was a fumble on the punt where we recovered the ball that set up that touchdown. There's just mistakes on that. I don't understand that. And that's infuriating. And I don't understand why. And again, Keaton Mitchell, I just go back to what I was saying earlier. I just think it's disappointing. I don't understand why he just disappeared in the second half. And then his response as a coach was just that's just kind of the way it went as far as the play calling. Yes, Justice Hill is a good pass blocking running back, but they turned to Gus Edwards, who had his 7th touchdown in the last 4 games. That was great. but they were still struggling to move the ball. And especially and in fairness, again, when you lost Ronnie and Morgan's not out there, yeah, that's tough. But I think when you look at Keaton, he's averaging practically 14 yards every time he touches the ball. So I know that he's making a moment of every opportunity, and I think he's shown what he can do in this offense. But I still don't buy what Harbaugh said. I think there was something else there that just said something different. And lastly, before we get into the Thursday night game, the comparison to the 2000 team. Now, granted, this defense so far this season looked pretty good. Is looking well, but that's premature. And I really, really don't. When I first heard about it being compared to the 2000 team, no, absolutely not. Because they allowed, first and foremost, I watched the same Ravens defense that allowed at the time Joshua Dobbs and that Arizona Cardinals offense to score 17 late points. And then they were very passive with the lead. When it mattered, we needed a stop in this game against Cleveland. Where's my clip?
Mm-hmm. I can't defend that. What do you want me to say to that?
And respectfully, there's a difference between this team and the 2000 team, because respectfully, that 2000 Ravens team was strongly built on defense. Offensively, a lot of people don't know Jamal Lewis was drafted that year as a rookie, Priest Holmes, Quadre Ishmael, Brandon Stokely, Travis Taylor, Shannon Sharp. Who was a starting quarterback in the beginning of the season? Tony Banks. They went, I believe, a stretch. I think it was like 7 straight 8 weeks without scoring a touchdown before they went to Trent Dilfer. This offense is capable of scoring just as much as the defense. So that was just premature, and that bothered me. Don't get me wrong. The defense has been playing well, but they're not the 2000 Ravens. Absolutely not. No. Before we get into the Thursday night victory against the Cincinnati Bengals, let me get into the sponsor of Big Name Sports Talk podcast. It is Zagnif Apparel. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to dress like you're already famous? You can and you will with Zagnif Apparel.
The following is a presentation of Zagnif Productions, LLC. Introducing Zagnif Apparel. Our comfortable line of leisure wear and athletic wear will have you comfortable and stylish at any occasion. Whether you're at the gym, out shopping, or just relaxing at home. Whether you're an athlete or just want to lay around the house, we've got the perfect outfit for you. Stop by our website today and pick up your favorite pieces. Zagnif Apparel. Dress like you're already famous.
You can and you will with a nice 15% off using my discount code BIGNATE on your final purchases from Zagnif Apparel. Zagnif Apparel, thank you so much for being a sponsor of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, shout out to Mr. Fingers, aka Mr. Anthony Handy, you will dress like you're already famous. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with this commercial break. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for my failed singing. That's I gotta take it out for that one. But let's get into the Thursday night victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. Ladies and gentlemen, the Baltimore Ravens had a short week. Coming into this week, to week 11, the Baltimore Ravens defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 34-20. Firstly, before we get into the recap, I want to send my thoughts and well wishes to Joe Burrow as he is out for the rest of the season. He suffered a torn ligament in his wrist. Still not really understanding why that wasn't reported as an injury before the game. I know the NFL was investigating that. So well wishes to him. I knew just he didn't look right. I knew he wasn't going to come back in the game. Jake Browning now has the keys to the car. And I think for Cincinnati, I still think they'll win games. I think as a playoff team, it's going to come down to a couple things. I think they're going to need some luck from other teams losing and kind of getting it right. As coming into this game, there's a couple things that we got to take into consideration. T. Higgins didn't play. And there were some injuries across the board. Let's really just get into it. For me, I thought the biggest thing was I felt that this was a get right game for the Ravens. Look, I'm going to be on this offense because I still think this is an offense that is learning a new system on the fly. When I say I've seen growth, I mean that. I'm talking in terms of we're not sticking to basic elementary school plays. I literally see growth with this team. However, I see inconsistencies with Monken's offense. Let me give you an example. You've got to open up the floor. Well, open up the field, excuse me, in this case, for Lamar. I mean, you have three, to me, talented running backs. Like, either you help him better utilize the weapons or help him avoid getting hit on so many damn times. I cannot tell you how there were instances where I see the offensive line, I see them not utilizing their weapons. That is I can't defend that. Now, in fairness, let's start with on the Ravens side. Mark Andrews is now out for the season. Well wishes to him. We're Logan Wilson. Look, I've heard all the talking heads on national TV. You know, some saying it was a dirty play, some saying it's not. I will say this: while I don't think it, I'm not going to say it was dirty. I will say that I've seen that before. I feel as though his momentum, it happens. Now, I don't like it and how it occurred, and it sucks because that is one of Lamar Jackson's go-to weapons. And I think now the loss of Mark Andrews, I think changes the dynamic of this offense because now I'm looking at Isaiah Likely. I'm looking at Charlie Kolar. I'm looking at these guys to step it up now. Like, this is what they were drafted for. Now, especially, we all know Mark and Lamar, they've been peanut butter and jelly when they came in the league together. So that's something that Lamar kind of said in the post presser in the win against Cincy. So now I'm looking at Isaiah and Charlie. These are targets that Lamar's going to have to lean on. And I think as the season progressed, I think they'll be more comfortable. Charlie Kolar, who's the number 3 tight end, he had a couple catches in the game. He looked good. Especially Isaiah Likely, who we saw flashes of what he can be, especially after last year when Mark went out with an injury. I remember in the game against Cincinnati, Isaiah Likely had 103 yards. So I'm curious to see how Todd is going to utilize them, especially now that Mark's out there. But now You're asking Odell, Rashard Bateman. This is where I'm looking at him. Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, hell, even Devin Duvernay. I'm looking at them now. They're going to be asked to do more. Okay. For me, I think going forward, I think the offense will be okay. It's just going to be interesting to see how the dynamic changes with this offense. I really think, for me, Lamar's now number one target should be Zay Flowers. And Odell should be his number one target, but he suffered a shoulder injury. And Harbaugh said it was a serious, but Rashard Bateman, is a former number one overall pick. This is his proving ground. I still think he's a capable receiver. I think he's shown flashes. Personally, if you ask me, I truly think he's a slot receiver. So it's going to be interesting to see how this next man up mentality works with this offense, especially when he's going into the day after Thanksgiving game against the Los Angeles Chargers. Not having Marlon Humphrey out there. The secondary did its job. I was impressed with that. Now, sigh of relief. I thought essentially, and I was kind of on the concur with everybody. I thought initially Marlon tore his Achilles. I'm not going to lie, because when J.K. went down with that, it looked similar to that, and thank God that it was just a calf injury, and they stepped up. I would say the only rhythm that Joe Burrow had was that on his touchdown drive, he had 78 passes, and then after that, Baltimore made the adjustments. Pass breakups, did all those things. I thought, especially when Kyle Hamilton set the tone when he stripped Jamar Chase early in the game and then also in the fourth quarter. He hammered a hit on Tyler Boyd, which forced a punt and an interception. No, incompletion, and a punt. Marcus Williams, we all know, has been dealing with a pec injury in his left arm, so playing with one arm. He had 2 diving pass breakups. That was pretty good. Ronald Darby, who's starting in the place of Marlon Humphrey, he had a couple good plays. He broke up a pass in the end zone, and he had Jamar Chase, it was a good Jake Brown, and he just launched it. And Jamar caught it, but it was out of bounds. Brandon Stevens also did a really, really good job. He has been thriving this season. He also shut down Jamar Chase. But again, in fairness, they didn't have T. Higgins on that other side, and that kind of made a difference. So it was kind of more focused on taking Jamar out the game. And I credit that to Mike McDonald. Held them under 300 yards, especially for the 5th straight meeting between us and Cincy. When you look at coming into the game, Chase, they took him essentially out the game. I mean, 2 catches for 12 yards. And then, painfully, he had the 2-yard touchdown in the closing minutes. But and also, in fairness, Jake Browning, was thrown in the game when Joe was on the bench with injury. So, especially when you're behind for most of the game, you're going to be throwing the football. So, that's what I like from the secondary. I'll give them a solid A. While we're still on the defense, that this is what we've been expecting, especially his lack of production. That's been frustrating to watch, and I think so. I'm liking what I've seen, and he was out so far 4 games this season, and we're sitting going like, oh, okay. Now you got Jadeveon Clowney, who's been balling this year. Kyle Van Noor, who took over, and then now I'm starting to see the guy who was drafted number 31st overall 2 years ago starting to look good. And it's interesting. Now we lead the league in sacks. It's all over. Justin Madubuike, he's having a good year. This is his game. This is a sixth straight game with a sack so far, and that's a franchise record. Jadeveon Clowney, Tre'Davious Robinson, rookie, Kyle Van Noor, all had sacks. Everybody was getting some. And I think respectfully, this is something I think that is beneficial for OA, especially when you've got some veterans, Clowney, Van Noy. Like, they've produced more than we expected. Even though I kind of felt like, well, what if Justin Houston and Calais Campbell were there? But I think as time progresses, you're going to see more of Ojabo. You're going to see more Owe because, especially in the 17-game season, you got to think about, getting players right, make sure they're rested, different things like that. Even though Tyus Bowser and Ojabo are still sidelined, we've been waiting. We've been waiting for this moment. Like Phil Collins said in the song in the air tonight. We've been waiting for this moment. And yeah, they look good. And like I said, the biggest thing other than what I feel like everyone talked about more other than Burrow's injury was the hip drop tackles, in which has been for the most part a discussion where a defender, does not matter if it's a defensive lineman, linebacker, defensive back, where they encircle a player at their hips, drops down and puts all their weight on lower extremities. That's what happened to Mark Andrews, who caught the ball at the 9-yard line. And as he raced to the end zone, Logan Wilson wrapped him at his hips, dragged him down, landing on his ankle. And Patrick Mahomes, Geno Smith, I have also seen them suffer the same injury. Is it a dirty play? No. I understand you've got to tackle the guy, but putting your weight on someone's lower extremity, I think that's a bit much, in my opinion. I mean, it is their job to tackle. I mean, really respectfully, because again, the game is starting to predicate to more and more on the offensive side of the ball. We talk about this all the time about protecting players. I don't think there's anything Logan Wilson could have done differently. He had to tackle the guy. If he just let him go by, what are we saying? Well, where's the defense? Why did he not get him? So I like I said, I don't think it was a dirty play. I think it's unfortunate. It happens. And there's really nothing I could do. Do I like the fact that he landed on his ankle? No. But he has to tackle the guy. That's tough. That was tough for me. And like I said, I think this was, like I said, as I stated, a get right game. I think the Ravens did all the right things. There's still some things that Baltimore needs to clean up. We swept them. We had a win over them week 2. We swept them, and I feel pretty good about that. I really think with the AFC North, I think there's some questions now with Deshaun Watson out. I think the really true team that I think can take advantage, other than Baltimore in the AFC North, is Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even though I don't trust their offense, I think they might be our biggest threat to winning the division again, because we faced them at the end of the season. It'd probably be the 6th or the 7th of January. We all know the league likes to rotate games. So I feel like, again, now Deshaun Watson's out for the season. Mark Andrews is out for the season. And then Joe Burrow's out for the season. The AFC North is probably the most harsh division to play. This has probably been some of the most toughest football I've seen, because we do beat each other up, especially these last few years. It's the AFC North is just a different breed. And I thought, for example, in baseball, I thought the AL East was bad. Baltimore, New York, Boston, Tampa, Toronto. I mean, these 4 teams, by the time we play non-conference opponents, we're damn near fatigued, wiped out. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how we control the AFC North. I still think we'll win the division. Personally, like I said, Cleveland got theirs, and Baltimore will get their payback at the Serengeti when we face Pittsburgh. I'm guaranteeing that because there's no way we're going to have a game like we did where brothers left their hands back at the hotel, and for some unknown reason, we blamed Lamar Jackson for that loss. But that's neither here nor there. We're gonna let that go. But for the most part, I think it was a good game. Again, looking at it, my other notes that I had, I still think Lamar Jackson should be in the MVP conversation. Threw for over 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, and he had 54 yards on the ground where he extended a couple drives. He's doing enough to win games. Now he has 11 touchdowns on the season. I really feel as though it's going to be good for him. But again, there's some other things that bothered me too. I think, and I don't know what it is this year. It's not just with the officiating has been very interesting, to say for the most part, this season. Let me give you some context. I mean, the amount of random roughing the passer calls, inconsistent in interpretations of what a pass interference is, other calls I really don't understand. And our game was primarily an example of that. Let me give you an example. We're up 14-10. Okay, we're at our 20-yard line. Okay, this is before we go into halftime, right? So 3rd and 10. Lamar Jackson dropping back to pass. Incomplete pass. Cincinnati's called for pass interference. Okay. Then 1st and 20. Same thing. On the 38-yard line. There was a phantom pass interference call against DJ Turner. And like, even though I don't condone, I'm not a fan of gambling and all those different things like that. Like, we got to take that in consideration because more states are legalizing gambling. There's more money on the line. Like, we need some consistency from officiating. And I don't care if they're full-time or part-time refs. I mean, there has to be consistency. And it's not just with football. I just finished with the WNBA. I'm watching it with college basketball. I watched it with baseball. Like, officiating across the board has just been disgusting. And that's the best way I can say it. So, yeah, I don't know what that's all about. But at the end of the day, the Ravens get their win. They're going to 8-3 on a little mini bye week as we prepare for the Los Angeles Chargers. Even though I want to call them San Diego, we get ready to face Justin Herbert and those guys. But yes, let's get into one final thought.
Thoughts are running through my mind, so I took some time to find a minute or two to organize them.
My one final thought, man, I've been very vocal about this, and my opinion's not my stance on this is just not going to change. As a communication studies major, who my focus is on radio and television, I'll be done next summer with my bachelor's on that. My issue, especially when listening to the national media, particularly, I'm using Lamar Jackson in this case. I made a comment on a show, I believe it was North Sports Dynasty. This is during when we drafted the NFL draft. And I made a comment, and I stand by it. I don't trust the media towards Lamar Jackson towards the media for the next 5 years. And so far this year, my point's been proven. I understand talking heads want people like myself and others to react and say, you can't say those things, blah, 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 blah. I understand. Media's job is to control and spin the narrative. But if we're going to do that, I would really, really appreciate it if we kept the same energy. Now, in fairness, they have called out players like Burrow and some other players. Example. Because narratives matter. I didn't see, especially with Buffalo, for example, right? I didn't see a question, are the Buffalo Bills getting their money worth from Josh Allen? But they said that with Lamar Jackson after the loss to Pittsburgh. Are there any concern, like with the Chiefs? Are there any concerns with Mahomes and the Chiefs? You see what I'm saying? Like it's just weird how we frame things and then we run with it, especially when, again, I'm going to use another quarterback. This is a good example. Zach Wilson. Now, I've taken flack. I feel like sometimes it still gets thrown in my face, and I've taken accountability for it because I made a comment on an episode of the Round Table where I said Zach Wilson would throw 3 touchdowns against Dallas, and I was wrong for that. That was not that was just wrong of me to make the comment. And instead of saying that, hey, I think Zach Wilson will have it. I think he'll turn it around. Now, he's been playing very up and down, mildly inconsistent. But there have been games where he's shown flashes, but it's not enough. And respectfully, there are things, especially as a head coach, you can protect your player, but you still hold them accountable. I can't go to a presser and say, yeah, my quarterback's trash. I can't say that. I could say we got to hold him accountable. That's fair. But I think it also matters too, like, and especially the game when the Jets played the Chiefs, you had an analyst trying to get an NFL player to say he's trash. I'm talking about Rodney Harrison, and Chris Jones, much appreciation to him, gave Zach Wilson some credit. Like, I feel like I'm one of those, if a guy's playing well, give him his flowers. I'm not wrong. I have no issue with criticism. My issue is when you criticize, give context. I love Uncle Shay, a.k.a. Shannon Sharp. Love him to pieces. But this energy towards Lamar Jackson, and then it's been evident. There's something there I'm not agreeing with when it comes to Lamar Jackson. He doesn't give the same energy that I have seen when it comes to others. I mean, he will, like, when Buffalo lost Sunday night, the energy was just different. I mean, they called him out, but it wasn't the same energy Lamar got. That that bothers me. But I know that it's not going to change. I understand, that's their job. And look, I get it. I'm all about keeping the same energy. I'm all for you giving the player criticism and playing when they're great. I'm going to do the same thing. If I see, hey, player's not playing well, I'm going to do that. If they're playing fine, hey, you're looking great. Keep up the good work. But, like, example, look at C.J. Stroud. I think he's having a great season. I think he should be Rookie of the Year. Look at the team around him. That matters. Look at Carolina. Bryce Young, I mean, people are already saying he's a bust. Look at his team. Outside of maybe Miles Sanders, he legit has nothing to work with. The offensive line needs work. I mean, the receivers he has, they're not guys that sweep you off your feet. I mean, DJ Shark is a number 2, number 3 receiver in the NFL on any other NFL team. But Terrence Marshall, he hasn't shown what I thought he was going to be coming out of college. Like, those things matter. And personally, in my opinion, I don't think Frank Wright's the coach for Bryce Young. That's just my opinion. But I say all that to say, I think we need to do a better job as a media. Doesn't matter, national, podcast, does not matter. When I think when we criticize players, we need to understand, okay, what are they not doing right and what they're not doing wrong. I think it's easy to kind of follow behind somebody on national media and say, yeah, I agree, he's been playing awful without really having true contacts. And that's just me. So that's my one final thought. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude episode 1, season 17 of season 17 of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. It's good to be back. I've missed you guys. I hope you've missed me. I appreciate the new subscribers on the channel as well. We're on the road to 1K subscribers. Please like, comment, and subscribe for all future content. There's a couple things that are coming down the pipe. Like I said, be tuned in for that. Try to get a couple interviews in here, and hopefully by Christmas-ish, after Thanksgiving, I will have my first WNBA 2024 1.0 mock draft, because I started writing things down, and then I found out that a couple players are not declaring for the draft. They're going to stay another year. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm out. Peace. Stay out.
It's Friday night and I hit up the crew. Grab the keys, jump in my ride, cruise the town and can find something new. Hit the club, the DJ's got the dance floor in a groove, and none of that compares to when I turn around and saw you. I can't understand it, girl. How you do the things I'm watching you do. While we're in this club, hey, all I wanna do is dance with you. I wanna dance with you. The moment that I saw your face, I knew I wasn't leaving till I got a chance to know you. But I'm still nervous, trying not to lose my cool. So I'm stuck sitting watching you. I don't know what to do. Can't understand. Oh, yeah. How you do the thing I'm watching you do. While we're in this love, all I wanna do is dance with you.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the next big thing, the next up-and-coming sports journalist, Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
I want to thank you, yeah. I want to thank you. Ooh. For all the times you put up with me. Thank you. And you helped me retain my sanity. Thank you. I want to thank you. And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you for everything you do.